Well, chaps, in a very near dark bunker, so to speak, having lost my laptop to repair shop for a month in the end. Didn't know it would be that long. All my Battle Britain videos fell apart. So this one is a rough one, if anyone's watching. And from after the start of October, things had changed. As far as the British were concerned, perhaps there was breathing space, and the Germans were still coming over, but it wasn't quite the same as the past couple of months. The desperate situation that developed by, say, the middle of August, end of August, had almost faded. The RAF weren't to know this. Churchill probably didn't know it entirely. Hitler had more or less given up on invading Britain, or the idea of it, and more or less put the mockers on it a couple of days ago, around about the 15th of October. And daylight attacks are largely fighter bomber aircraft, and there's nighttime raids building and all over the country, not just in London. The RAF is still losing pilots, of course, or fighter commanders, and at the same time, totally forgotten against the stream of things. Bomber commander hitting Italy, and they're doing the odd bombing of Germany, but at least it's largely confined to occupied territories. Wherever bomber offensive is going on, they've already managed to destroy a sizable contingent of the invasion barges anyway, so. But no one remembers Bomber Command in 1940, really. He didn't exactly have a good start to the Western Front, or at least that was the Advanced Air Striking Force, so probably not the same thing, but their efforts go after the bridges at Maastricht and being wiped out. So the latter part of October 1940, everything is winding down. I mean, I read in, I think it was Patrick Bishop's book about the Battle of Britain, not Fighter Boys, but Battle of Britain, that Germany, certainly after the war, in June 1940, said that they considered the offensive against Britain in July onwards as being part of a longer Western campaign that started, I guess, with the invasion of France and Belgium and the Low Countries in May 1940, whereas the British, and certainly how we remember it now in history, you had the Battle of France, well, you had, of course, the invasion of Norway and Denmark, but then the most devastating and directly was the Battle of France, and then we had the Dunkirk evacuation, which was part of the Battle of France, of course, and then there was a lull as such. France surrenders, that's the end of it, and then you have to channel skirmishes, and then the Battle of Britain, and then the Battle of Britain ends in October, whereas the Germans effectively saw it as this long Western campaign that it sort of ended when they ended the Blitz in May 41 and went east, and largely focused on the east to invade Russia. And I guess what happened in Greece and Yugoslavia in 1941. So, but then of course history is history, so you look on Wikipedia saying their main, you look on it says Western, you look at a certain thing and to the side it says Western Front articles, and it has 1940, 41, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 45, But around the 24th, 25th of October, one of the most curious things about the Battle of Britain that's never really discussed, because I guess it's not really an episode, maybe if it had happened earlier in the battle people would know, but Italy took part in the battle over a couple of days, flying, compared to a Spitfire and Hurricane, sort of antiquated aircraft anyway, biplanes. The Regia Aeronautica, so forgive my pronunciation. Mussolini, it seems, felt like he was missing out on the action, and also was getting a little bit miffed that the RAF were bombing Italian industrial targets all the way from Britain, and there was a push me, pull me, I guess, and next thing you know, the Italians were bumped up in northern France, not a sizable contingent, and thought they could help out. if anything, they were an embarrassment both to the Germans and the British. I think from what I've read, the pilots that encountered the Italian planes were somewhat bemused, if little put out, because a biplane, even though they're biplane types, which I can never remember my Italian planes, sadly, were no matter. The Spitfire was a better match by far, but they could get away quite easily in diving and stuff. The Germans thought they were an absolute nuisance. They were rather keen pilots, but they were not trained for battle, from the sounds of it, and those that weren't shot down bailed out or turned back. It's a rather curious contribution to the Battle of Britain. On the German side, of course. It would be like, I suppose, if during the Battle of Britain, I'm trying to think who joined the war in 1940 just for the heck of it. Well, it seemed rather Chad or something. There was a kind of African country that declared war on Nazi Germany, and they were so far removed from Germany geographically they wouldn't. But like if during the Battle of Britain, someone else had decided to romp up, or if during the Dunkirk evacuation, America decided to pitch up. I don't know, there's no comparison, I'm not really thinking clearly, but now officially the Battle of Britain ended October the 31st, 1940. But of course that wasn't a definite end to proceedings, all because we think it's the end doesn't mean that things. It's not like, the choice for the Battle of Britain film, it has to show things in a condensed time, and they could only show the battle sort of winding down by having after the climactic September the 15th sequence, it being deathly quiet, no bombers coming over, the pilots all sat around on their deck chairs looking bored rigid. And obviously it didn't happen like that. Raids carried on after the 15th. And in fact, as I said in one of the previous videos, there was a day, first week of October, that it was almost as bad as anything since the end of August in terms of the losses on both sides, but certainly the British side of proceedings. So the battle ending on October 31st is arbitrary, but then some would argue it ended at the end of September, maybe. It depends what we class, I suppose, as Battle of Britain. Because again, the start of it is always a little bit, some people disagree on what the actual starting date is. I always thought, I for some reason thought it was in August, but then people say it's in July. Was it? But then I also read, and I think in my dissertation at university I even suggested that the Battle of Britain probably started over Dunkirk, because it was the first proper tussle between Fighter Command and the Luftwaffe. The Battle of France was not Fighter Command's finest hour. They tried, there was some very brave fighting and a lot of action, and they weren't running away from the Germans. But by and large, the Fighter Command was kicked across France by the Luftwaffe and suffered some really embarrassing losses. Yes, when our Fighter Command, the leadership, suddenly realised that the style of fighting, the formations and everything was rather rigid and outdated. And of course you had those who disagreed, like Barder perhaps, but Fighter Command learned a harsh and expensive lesson in France, I think, and they continue to evolve into the summer. But now it's the autumn, the days are getting shorter, of course, it's almost winter, and winters in the 1940s were usually quite harsh in this country. And so the Germans are going to focus primarily at night, and there's still some really bad days ahead for the British, not at Fighter Command, because obviously they're now sort of fading from the national picture. But Coventry will be raided, given the Germans and the British a new name. The Germans called it Coventry, we called it, or the British called it, Coventry. And yet there was a worse raid that same week elsewhere. I forget where I read it now. It was in my Jenkins book, I think. But we've got the 29th of December ahead of us, which is still known in some historical quarters anyway, because your general public won't know it, the Second Great Fire of London. And of course we got everything all the way through to May 1941 and that last night of the Blitz. And in fact next year, if I'm still doing videos or I'm still here, the 80th anniversaries of the Hood and the Bismarck, the invasion of Russia of course, Pearl Harbor, and probably 1,001 other things I need to look at. So I don't know if I'll be doing that. I mean, the trouble is, as might have been evidence with some of these videos, I have a certain knowledge of certain areas and some things I have to research for these videos. For instance, I don't really know the Far Eastern theatre intimately. I know of Burma and all of what, you know, there's the Forgotten Army, and obviously the British were involved at sea. I mean, HMS Illustrious, I think, was hit by a kamikaze pilot, for instance. But I could not tell you in intimate detail anything of the Far Eastern campaign, even for the Americans. And I've probably actually read more about the American theatre, in the, you know, Guadalcanal and the Philippines and whatever, and Iwo Jima, of course. So that's all to come, so to speak. I was debating whether to do another Sea Lion video, because I was going to do, alongside my Battle Britain stuff, I was going to do videos from September the 7th. I've done one already, but I was going to do ones as if Germany had invaded and talking about it as if it had actually happened, and just talk it seriously. But then it's just, but the whole is bracketed with the words, this is a bit of a piss take, in the sense that obviously it didn't happen, let's not take it too seriously, but treat it as if it had happened. Like, but then, you know, anyway. So thank you for watching. I should turn a light on next time I do this. And as Nick Ross used to say, don't have nightmares.